Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talking Sense with Alasdair Milroy right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your co-host, and I'd like to welcome Alasdair. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Ria. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now, we've talked about cryptocurrency. We've talked about the world situation today. I wanted to talk to you about accounting software. Now, the reason I wanted to talk to you about that is, as a Canadian citizen, I have to do my taxes. And I only have a certain amount to do them, of time to do them. I think a lot of people are looking at doing their taxes right now, and you know, it's confusing because there's so many options out there. And when you come to maritime, it makes it even that much more difficult because we're talking about different flags, we're talking about crew from different countries. Talk to me.
Accounting software has gone through some really big changes, probably over the last 12 years, and it's really shaken up the accounting industry in terms of the type of services that accountants can provide their client and actually the value that they can add. And really that's been, I think, from automating some of the more mundane tasks and the processing and getting better data available for accountants to actually then advise certainly business owners and yacht owners and get much better handle on what's going on in a business and have that much more up-to-date information. And you know, going back to when I was a young trainee, you'd often get someone coming in with a shoebox full of receipts and you'd process them at the end of the year, and it was 6 months behind. You know, you were doing the tax return, but it had all happened. You weren't able to add any value to the actual business itself. And you know, we've just seen a lot of development, a lot of new businesses and software developers into the market who've plugged into the core accounting packages. QuickBooks, Xero, Sage is now coming online, and just making that data much more customized and making the software that's available much more plug into what you need as a business.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I mean, taking a look back a few years ago, without giving away my age, I remember when I was 18 and I was hired to take a company and input all their books into software for the first time ever, and it was all paperwork. That was absolutely, I mean, it took me 6 months, I think, to implement all of their records into a digital format. We have so many options nowadays of different ways to input our information into digital software. Does that actually take the place of an actual proper accountant? You know, once you've inputted all that information into your digital format, does that take the place of proper accountant taking a look at it and saying, you know what, I can cut you here, I can cut you there, I can work this angle, I can work that angle, and you're actually going to get more money back or not have to pay as much in the end?
I love this question because a lot of the developers, a lot of the software providers out there will say, our software simplifies it, you can do it yourself, business owners, you don't need anyone else. The reality is that's not the case, and to get the best out of these software, you need someone who really knows how to use it. There's some, there are software packages out there who do make it easier for crew or for owners, but really to get the best out of those, working with an accountant is going to get you a much better result in the end. And I can give you a long line of accountants who can say the number of times they come into businesses and help them who have tried to do it themselves with some advice from Jack at the pub or whatever. It generally ends up costing that business or person a lot more to fix the problem than if they'd gone to the accountant in the first place.
So realistically, though, software is great for keeping track of everything, as far as your day-to-day expenses, as far as your income, as far as everything that goes into whether it be the yacht, whether it be an onshore business, it's great for keeping it digitally. But realistically, in order to maximize exactly what it is that you should be getting back from the government, or shouldn't have to pay the government, it is best to have a proper accountant take a look at that data within the accounting software to make sure that you are getting the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, for businesses particularly, I think systemizing is so important. And what I mean by that, not just the software you use, but actually looking at the process you've got in your business, mapping those out and making it repeatable and teachable to others. So and effectively, that's the only way you can scale your business. And so if you can set out a system, whether that's for your sales, for your onboarding new clients, for your delivery to clients, but you've got a method of doing that, and some of the most successful businesses in the world, if you look at places like McDonald's, they have that all systemized. And that's why they've been so successful and been able to replicate that around the world. You might not want to be a multinational company, but it's still, in terms of having that, breaking down your processes and being able to bring people in and not then be reliant on employees leaving or crew leaving. It comes down to the same on a yacht. If you've got the systems in place, you can bring someone on and still deliver the same experience much more quickly than if you don't have those processes.
Well, I sort of liken it to, and we spoke about it off air, is the fact that, back home in Canada, I can do my taxes with H&R Block. It'll cost me $50. I may have to pay the government $100. But I take my information to a proper accountant and it may cost me $150, but I get $2,000 back. So it really just goes to show that the returns, when you actually invest, especially in your books, especially in your accountant, and take a look, that's just a small little business like mine. Whereas compared to, the Bezos of the world, they've got a team of accountants. And, we hear a lot of people complaining about the people like Bezos that aren't paying taxes at all. Well, how do you think that happens? They are able to pay, maybe they pay $2 million a year to this team of accountants or more, who knows? But for that 2 million, they're able to save themselves 15 million, correct?
Yeah, if you plan ahead and you have the right advice and you look at what you're doing, you can save, definitely, manage your exposure to taxes. And I think just as importantly for any business is, they always say cash is king. So look at the things that can really change and generate the cash in your business. If you can look at your debtor days and reduce that from being paid in 20 days to being paid in 10, think about how that's going to affect your cash balance and being able to manage that. And that's the sort of thing that an accountant can look at quite quickly and identify ways that perhaps you can put things in place. Some of those will be technology driven, but yeah, looking like getting your customers on, for service industries, particularly getting on regular payment plans where you have technology, a payment platform like Stripe or Go Cardless are some key ones which you can take regular monthly payments on. Say getting paid 10 days earlier can be the difference between meeting your overheads or not. And I think there's lots of different technology out there that can help help you look at cash flow, help look at funding environment, particularly for onshore businesses. It's from those sort of advice that accountants can bring on, and then just saving time. If you can save an hour or two of every 10 employees day, that's a couple of days a week you've got freeing up to do something. And there's some great tools around. One I love is called Dex. It used to be called Receipt Bank, but it automates the extraction of data from your receipts. You take your phone with an app, take a photo of it, it extracts the data out, attaches a copy of that and sends it to your software, your accountant can look at it and review it on the way through to make sure you've categorized things correctly, or it's got a messaging app in it. It just can save businesses a load of time in terms of, rather than having paper file, having to send it. It's also a lot safer because you're in a secure environment. I'd always recommend using what they call two-factor authentication, which most of you've got authentication apps, or I've got one of these little things here, which, oh, it's disappeared. That's quite, can't see it, but it's there you go, YubiKey. You see it now?
Yeah.
You have to have that to log into your account. It just makes things so much more secure. I know you've talked a lot on your shows around cybersecurity. Fraud, invoice fraud is prevalent. I think yachting's in some ways a very lucrative target, given the money, the size of the sums that are floating around. And so, yeah, putting a tool in place that can mean that you're not emailing information outside of your own environment, and you're securing it with a security key or an authentication app is really critical, and just makes life a lot easier for everybody.
Well, you will provide us with links of not only accounting software, but as well the other things that you talked about, so that we can make sure that everybody has the ability to do their own research, of course.
Yeah, I've had some great reading in terms of, for business owners. There's an amazing guy called Stuart Mason. He had a printing business which lasted, I think, 20 years before it went to the wall, but he's written a book about the mistakes he made, and a lot of those mistakes were in the early days, but it took 15 years for them to come back. And actually, a lot of those were around putting processes in place. Yeah, he's a great guy, really easy to read book, quite gets at the heartstrings a little bit because it's a personal story of his. It's called How to Wreck Your Business. Yeah, really, and it's so key to talking about some of these things, getting the right measuring, performance measurements, in having the right processes in terms of the way you deal with your customers, and planning ahead and having that sort of the cash, investment cash that you need to make sure. Even another thing, and you see it a lot in yachting, I've certainly experienced it, where people ask for discounts. But if you look at a discount on a sales call and then work out how much that affects your profit, it's really damaging. A 5% discount can be a 30% reduction in your profit. I think a lot of small business owners don't realize quite how much that is impacting, and I think that's where an accountant can help with looking. If you've got that financial information and you can use those systems to have that much more up to date, then you can really look and see what those, pricing is a huge component of making a business profitable. And a lot of us get it wrong.
Well, to be honest with you, this is my second business that I've owned. And I'm telling you right now, I've made the mistake of thinking that I'm saving money by doing it on my own. And in the end, I've realized that spending that extra few $100s on an accountant actually saved me thousands. So you may have to put up X amount in the front, but at the back end, honey, trust me, it's well worth it, because you end up far further ahead than you imagined you would be.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly. I think it is an investment. People need to, or do see that as someone to help you and partner you. And I think that's where a lot of this software that we're talking about has actually allowed accountants to be much more become much more partners with business owners, to really help them hold accountable. So look at the goals, look at actually not just what's my business doing, how much tax can you save me, but what do you want to achieve? What's your vision for your life? What do you want? How's the business going to help you to achieve that? And then helping with the accountability around that.
Well, and in absolute honesty, the fact is, if everything comes to an accountant in an electronic format, and I have been at the stage where I sent all of my tax receipts and everything in the shoebox, the electronic version is so much easier for an accountant to figure out.
It is. And talking about that, Ria, we've also had, in the UK from April this year, what's called Making Tax Digital is come into place for V8, for all VAT and for income tax and corporation tax from 2024. That basically means the taxman will only take your information in a digital format from a recognized software, whether that's Sage, QuickBooks, Xero, Waves. There's many, free agents, another one. But so there's a tax and legislative reason why you need to do it, but actually you can get so much more from it if you have that information, and it will, I think, help businesses be more successful.
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to getting all the links that you will send us so that we can make sure that everybody has the ability to not only research for themselves, but as well take a look at some of the leading softwares that you recommend. And of course, just because you've got the software doesn't mean you don't actually need a proper accountant to look at that information and make sure that you get the most back for what you put in.
Yeah, I think it's really important for business owners also to have an accountant who's, it's not just about having the software, it's about having the right software for your business.
Exactly. And you need an expert for that. Right. Yeah. You've been watching another edition of Talking Sense with Alasdair Milroy of Breaking the Mold Accounting. I thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Ria. It's always a joy. Have a great evening.
My name is Ria. I have been your co-host. We'll see you again right here next week.